fantastic. Well, I'm John O'Brake. This is actually quite a fun one today. Mark, Linda, and May King. It's so good to see you all. And this is our second shot. we tried to do this yesterday, but it didn't work out. But so here we all are. So Mark and Linda are in France. May King's in the UK. I'm in the US. We're all smiling. We're all healthy. None of us are wearing face masks, although probably all of us should be. But today, okay. That was an interesting one. Is that a French face mask or something? Is that Mark? So,
that was a screwed up one because it came straight out of my bag.
We should do a photo at the end with all of us with our face masks on.
There we go.
I'm going to find one. Hang on.
I like that one.
Then we've got camo one and the
Awesome.
French.
See, I've got my little French one with my flag.
We changed masks according to
I've got a French
the
one
meetings.
too, man. So, all right, so we're good because we are technically within a meter of each other. So this could be illegal. This could be illegal on 3 different countries.
As you can see, I'm in a business incubator, but it's not exactly busy here. It's lunchtime in France, and we all know the French love their long lunches.
Love it. I'm part French already, but the other part Italian. But so here we are. So here we all are: Mark, Phillips, Linda, McCall, Making Tsang, Jonathan Brake. We're all here together. We're going to talk about mentoring today because one of the key things behind SandTracks is the fact that this is a place where startups and entrepreneurs, particularly those who are hanging out all over the world, can come and get. I mean, we've got over 25 mentors now, plus ourselves.
Yep.
And this is where people in that space can come and get fantastic mentoring at a really great price, to be honest.
Yeah.
But also just get access to really great conversations and so forth. So that's where we're going to launch off from today. And so one of the things I want to do, so I want to open this, Mark, with you, and really, obviously, I was thinking, this goes back to some of the conversations you and I had years and years ago when we were sitting in cafes in Umundi, and we were talking about this whole idea of how do we create a broader sort of mentoring, connective space, because it's something that all businesses need. We're going to get to your story in a minute, but first of all, I want just to talk about. So Mark, tell me, first of all, the story of you being mentored through your journey in business, because you've had quite a journey. And you've got 2 minutes.
Thanks, mate. Well, I guess I grew up as a sportsman. And so as a sportsman, you've always got coaches, but you've also got older sportsmen that are giving you some advice along the way, who are not your coach. They're just saying, well, when I had that problem, I did it this way. And that sort of transcribed into my employment and into my business over time. Right. So the difference was with a coach is a lot more clinical sort of arrangement, but there's experience to be able to be tapped into. And mentoring is all about tapping into somebody's experience. It's about tapping into what they've done and how they achieved something and what they tried and what didn't work. So it's less theoretical and more about how they achieve things. It often goes a little bit further, that involves connections with individual people. So that's, I guess, the general trend that has run through what is now a 40-year working career for me, and it still runs today. So what we did with SandTracks is that we brought all these mentors together to say, let's share your knowledge to those people that don't have as much knowledge in business. They're just starting out. They might be strong in one area, weaker in the other, but let's tap into their collective knowledge, their collective connections around the world, and just make it easier. So, so that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's wow, that's the most abbreviated answer I've ever got. But
I tried hard.
Yeah, you did, mate. You've improved. The French have improved you, man. But look, and that's so critical. And you actually talked about, because this is one of the common things that comes up. You talked there about the difference between a coach and a mentor, right? And so whilst there's a ton of crossover, right? You could talk about a coach and a counselor, or a coach and a leader. And so, but that's a critical difference, because often a coach is someone who actually doesn't play the game, right? Yeah. And so think about now. Look, if you're talking about a sports coach, you'd hope that they know something about the sport, right? But I think about, you and I are Brumbies Rugby's fans, right?
That's it.
So we think about Rod McQueen, the first Brumbies coach, who did play rugby, but not to a huge level, but ended up not only being the Brumbies coach, ended up being the Wallabies coach, and I think then went on overseas. Yep. And he did it all based on what he understood from business principles.
That's it.
Have you ever read his book? And so just fascinating. So he was very much a coach, right?
That's it.
But a mentor often either is or has been in the space, and kind of comes alongside you and works through the issues with you. Now, this is where it gets murky, because a coach can do likewise, but coaching by discipline is more about, how do I, May King presents an issue, how do I then ask a bunch of questions that helps her discover what the answer is? And so I find that fascinating, because you talked about both of those elements there.
Yeah, the key element is that mentors are tapping into their experience, and they're talking about how they've achieved something similar.
Yeah.
And that means different mentors have different approaches.
Yeah.
So it also means that the recipient needs to pick and choose, what style of mentor, what knowledge base they're tapping into, and they can be a bit more targeted with their requests.
Yeah.
So they'll have a mentor for technical things that are different than tax things, for instance, or business models. They have different mentors for different strengths or weaknesses that they're trying to learn in.
Which again plays into that power of SandTracks, right? Because having a group of mentors that are all very willing to get involved, you can find those ones that do gel with you, so to speak, that you actually have a natural rapport. And it's interesting. I mean, I find, and again, that's very similar in coaching. Often I'm part of a community of coaches, and so it's almost like you're lined up in like a police lineup by a client, and they just go, based on your testimony that you look like you could work with me. Then there's an interview process, and then they choose one.
Yep.
So that's fascinating. So how did mentoring get you to where you are today, Mark?
Oh, well, I guess we're all looking for shortcuts, and people that have been there before, they know the shortcuts. Yeah. So you don't need to read a theoretical book or something like that often is out of date. Particularly in business, markets change. This year is a classic example.
Yeah.
Look how much the markets have changed in months. So, what we learned many years ago, John, often has no relevance today. It might be good in theory, might sound good and logical, but it has no practical importance. So knowing what to do at the right time is one of the really beneficial ways. Mentors often jump in at the right time as well. So it's about keeping you moving forward, it's keeping the momentum going forward. I still tap into mentors all around the place for the next piece of knowledge or how to do this when I'm stuck in my own things.
Yeah.
It just becomes a way of life to expose your weaknesses and let people know I need help in one area.
Yeah, and that's you just used another beautiful word, stuck, right? So Linda, you're a coach, and you get alongside a lot of people, and particularly from more of a life coach point of view, if I can use that term, a personal coach, probably people coach, whatever you want to call it. But this whole concept of being stuck, right? We come across people all the time. May King's nodding her head. May King's never been stuck. And
she wouldn't know how to be stuck. No, you haven't.
we all get stuck. And so Linda, this whole idea of people getting stuck, right? That starts to play into the coaching and that whole discipline around mindsets and things like that as well. Another great thing in terms of mentoring, right?
Yeah, I think some of the major things is people don't know what question to ask. So they don't really know what a mentor can do for them. So that, I'll tell you a quick story. When my very, very first business, the business was, I had all the great things. I had the the business cards. I had all the right things for my business. I had the website. This is back in 2004. But I had all the good, pretty things that would make a business go well, I thought, because it was my very first try at a business. But I didn't surround myself with the people that were the experts in this area. So what I found is that I didn't have the experts around me. And so being able to have experts around you all the time, and as you all know, we've been interviewing entrepreneurs on Facebook, and every week for the last few months, and every single one of them has said to us, one of the key things about my journey is that I surround myself with the right people, with experts.
Absolutely.
So so that's the key part of being a mentor, and having mentors around you, and having coaches, having access to a coach.
And we kind of feel a little bit spoiled for choice having all these people around us, don't we? I mean, it's
I know. But that's why we put them all together, is because we were traveling the world and meeting these incredible people and these incredible experts, and they were our good friends. And we're like, how do we get them all in the same place?
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've got clients that are mentors. So that we got mentors on our group that have been paying us money to help them. And the same thing, we are paying mentors to help in other areas. So it becomes this big ecosystem.
Well, it becomes, and again, the whole mentoring people side of it, right? The ones that really work are the ones that actually become highly relational. And because the rapport and the connection is so important. It's not just a framework. And this is where I challenge with some of the coaching spaces, because a lot of people learn a framework, coach the framework, not the person. And so the whole thing about mentoring is that, I'm similar to you, Mark. Like, I've got clients who I'm coaching who turn around and then coach me and are also friends, and so we'll go mountain bike riding together or do so, it's, and so it becomes one of those kind of funny relationships where, they're paying you professionally. You're also their mate.
But it's always ratcheting up, and it ratchets up faster because you've got a bigger trusted network.
Absolutely. I love that. That ratcheting up is the point. We're not.
There has been studies.
Sorry?
There actually has been studies on the fact that if people are mentored, if they're mentoring people as well as being mentored, they actually go further in life. And there's actual studies on that out of the university. I think it's Harvard University. I'm not quite sure, but the exact place. However, there is studies to prove the fact that people who have, and it started actually in a military organisation where they had mentors mentoring, other officers, and then they also mentored people themselves. And so if you mentor someone yourself, you're actually getting the benefits of mentoring as well. So it goes both ways. So definitely.
Fantastic. So that's some really cool stuff on just the whole almost like an intro into the mentoring game itself. So let's just shift gears a little bit. May King, sitting there looking so fantastic, and here I am looking like a slob. But but May King, when we started talking about this idea, you started talking about your journey and the power of mentoring and how that's helped you in your business. So you've got a few minutes. Tell us that story.
Yeah, I mean, very quickly, I moved from corporate world into start my own business. And, when you work for someone else, if you need help, you've got training programs, you can go to your manager and they'll put you in touch with someone to, train you. They may even have a buddy system where you are coached or mentored within the corporate space. When you work for yourself, though, being in business can often feel like the loneliest place on the planet. And that's how I felt when I first started my business. So I actually created a community in Australia called Queensland Business Group. And it was a Facebook group 10 years ago where we sort of helped each other. There were referrals and this, that, and the other. Now, I faffed around in my business for for the longest time. Let's see, for about
That's my favorite word, faff.
yeah, I faffed around in my business for like
a good word, isn't it?
for 6 years, and so, you know, I had a personal setback in Australia as well, so that had something to do with it. But I did things by myself. Now, when I came back to the UK in 2016, I thought that one of the first things I did was I decided to, you know, have a mentor. Now, emotionally, it's helped me. Financially, it's helped me. I've earned more in the last 4 years than in the previous 6 years of being in business. And a lot of it is down to the fact that I hired a mentor. But like Linda said, you know, there are studies that have been shown that when you are being mentored and when you mentor people, you are going to progress even further. And that's what I love about SandTracks, because you can be a mentor, and we are all mentors, but we can also be we can also be mentored and be the mentee. And by helping each other, we're actually helping all of us to grow exponentially, financially and personally, as a person as well. So in a nutshell, mentoring is so important for your business, and it's so important for you to grow as a person as well.
So what were some of the moments when, you know, if you think back to, like, I can think back through mentoring moments where people have asked me questions and I'm just gone, ooh, that was a tough one, you know, and that stretched me and probably grew me more than a lot of the other stuff, right? Obviously, it's easy for someone to come along and say, hey, you're awesome, you're doing good, you know, that's great. But when somebody goes, what you did over there, that really sucked, you know?
Well, I mean, you know, our guest for, next week's show, Tama, is my business mentor. And he showed me, because he's been through it, you know, he's ran successful businesses, he went bankrupt, he's starting again from scratch, you know, he's really been there and gone through it. And when I spoke with our first session together, he showed me the possibilities. I was thinking too small. That is incredible. And, you know, there's no judgment. You know, he doesn't, you know, if I haven't done something, he doesn't judge me. You know, he sort of supports me. He really does cheer from the sidelines with pom-poms with me. And together I can, you know, I'm starting to believe in myself more. I had major imposter syndrome for the longest time. I mean, even sharing the, you know, when I was on the speaking panel with Mark, you know, when was that? That was
way back when Adam was a child.
Way back when. I had major imposter syndrome. I'm thinking, what am I doing on the same panel as Mark? You know, but you know, a mentor can really.
And I'm thinking, am I actually qualified to be in front of all of these young business
That's right.
people?
Yes, it's everybody else is on the stage is going, probably the same thing.
Yeah. So having a community where you can actually be mentored or be the mentor, like SandTracks, it helps you to get back on track. And we're not going to say things just to be nice or just to say, yeah, well done. You know, we've been there. We've experienced failures, successes. We've fallen over. We've got ourselves back up. We've helped each other to help us get back up. No judgment. We're all there to support you, and that's the impact that mentoring can have. And I think what's unique about SandTracks is the fact that you don't get access to one mentor, you get access to a whole group of mentors. I mean, how cool is that? That's pretty epic, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited because you're excited. Now everyone else is excited too. No, that's fantastic.
So what about you, Jono?
For me,
your journey as a coach as well. You've been doing coaching from startups all the way through to, you know, corporates. So what are you seeing in the mentoring, like the benefits of mentoring?
So it's funny. It depends on the business. So for me, you know, obviously I'm getting involved at all sorts of levels where I may be just coaching a leader or you know, and so I'm hired as a coach, but it's kind of for me, it's all about mentoring because it's about getting alongside them and kind of, we would say in Australia, being their mate, right? And so actually it works really well as a language here. I say, well, I'm a mate to business people. And the Americans, of course, love that. It's I got someone I can call mate, but what what I've seen here is that there's a couple of pieces to this. Obviously, there's the relational aspect and the individuals you're mentoring, but there's also the frameworks that a business creates, right? And whether they're one person, you guys are growing a business at the moment, right, Mark and Linda? And you're starting to bring on interns and different groups of people. You've already got a bunch of people all over the world working with you. And so it's also the frameworks you create that actually encourage mentoring within the team. Okay, so that's something that happens more once the business starts to grow. You start to add people, and because it's part of that trajectory that then helps people feel like I belong to something, that I can actually give my stuff away to somebody else, because people love to give away. I mean, our highest core need is contribution, right? And so, in the context of growth and contribution. So growth is how we develop ourselves. Contribution is how we then take what we know and give it away. And, sitting in the 6 core needs. And so that whole concept of contribution, if we provide that framework for people to do that. And so there's those 2 parts. So it's mentoring and coaching the individuals. And then it's very much, how do we create strategies and frameworks and tactics that actually build a mentoring culture into the business? And it's got to come from the leader. I mean, at the end of the day, if the leader isn't into mentoring others, they're probably doomed to be destined, because some people like being soloists. They're probably destined to be a soloist, maybe a consultant. But so that's it. I mean, if I was to take all the companies I work with, like you say, people that haven't made a dollar yet, right through to multi-billion-dollar companies, I'd say that's the same thing right through. There's an individual component, and then there's the framework component.
I guess as business leaders, we're trying to bring out the best of our teams,
right,
and our clients. So that needs a little bit of agility. We need to chop and change, and it means often that you go beyond what you think your job role is, written by the operations manual, and you go like we've got a young guy just starting with us. I said, can you meet me today? We literally signed his contract a couple of hours ago. He said, well, I can't drive. I've just actually hurt my elbow. I said, that's right. I'll come and collect you. And it was like, of course we'll come and collect you, because we need to get you on board. We need contracts signed. We need to get some money in your pocket, sort of thing.
Right. So it's important.
It goes beyond the official, and it's all about helping and helping faster.
And I think that plays into the mindset of the average entrepreneur, right, Mark? I mean, that's the whole reason you and I. I mean, you and I have been hanging out for almost 30 years now, and I think you get less for murder, but but we've been hanging out for about 30 years, and I've known you as a guy. And I mean, going back to that time when we would just hang out chatting at the Park Royal. I was carrying suitcases and parking cars at a hotel, and Mark was running I was
hustling. My first customers by not locking up at hotels. But it was funny because Mark would sit around and chat and talk, and just very friendly, and it came quite naturally to you. I mean, obviously very good in that space. But it is that to me is like that. That's always been what I've epitomized with you, is like, I just want to help people. I want to get involved. There is also a time, and I know this with you too, Mark, there's also a time where helping that person's got to stop. Because you're now sometimes you start enabling poor behavior. So I guess that's a whole other interesting one. So what I'd like to do is now just pivot into another area. And this is going to play a little bit into mindsets, because you mentioned imposter syndrome. I have no idea what you're talking about. And but you talk about imposter syndrome and this, but just that alone, and actually I can't remember, Mark or Linda at the beginning talked about just becoming better at it was Linda talking about better what you do, and it's funny because I started my journey in business in marketing, as you all know, and that my businesses were all marketing agencies, branding agencies. Some were awesome, and some took everything I had, and everything I owned, and so learned a lot through that journey. But it was funny that just one of the things from a business point of view, and I'm just going to use Aussie terms here because it's easier for us all, was that
we were building these fantastic brands and great messages and really cool products and helping the company or the client strategize. And they were smaller businesses. But it didn't matter if the leadership or the people in that business sucked, that business would only go so far. And that's where it got me really curious, because it was almost like that was a mentoring journey in itself for me. It was like, well, what's the point of developing all these great message strategies and marketing programs and product strategies and things like that if the leadership are just going to squander it? And that was some of the things we saw. So, and as I started to delve into that more and more, trained as a coach and did some of that sort of side of things, this whole concept of mindset started to really play into what was actually going on underneath.
Yeah.
So when I mentioned mindset, Linda, what does that mean to you?
So mindset comes, I'm reading this book at the moment, and it talks about mindset, and it talks about how we're able to cope with things that happen in our business, like on a daily basis, and how we actually, mindset is also about being able to ask the question, like, and not, knowing that you're not used to asking someone for help. And that's one of those things that, most of us say, no, I can do it. I've got grit. I know how to do this. But if you're not used to asking questions and reaching out to people, that's a mindset in itself, and that can hold a business back, because you're so used to being, I can do it. And having that grit and being able to go ahead on your own. But mindset is also about, how you look towards other people in your team, and having a good expectation, I guess, on the people around you, so that you can project onto that other person, the best outcome possible.
That's fantastic, because when you start to talk about how you project and all that sort of thing, and that's coming out of what I think of myself. It's what I think of the world. The imposter syndrome is really, it's actually, the imposter syndrome is actually a place of shame, right? The difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is I've done something wrong and I feel bad. Shame is I am wrong, I'm broken. And so, the real fundamental problem that society faces today is actually dealing with shame, not so much whether I feel bad about something. And it plays out, I think, a lot in business in the imposter syndrome. I'm not worthy to be here. I don't deserve to be here. And it's Mark's shaking his head. It's like, the fact that you are there.
We see it a lot, don't we, Jono? We see.
Well, we suffer it ourselves. I mean, goodness me, when I had this piddly little business in Australia, and the next thing I'm walking into the Prime Minister's office to advise him on national small business policy. Talk about imposter syndrome, man. That thing slapped me down good and hard. I don't think I remember a word of that conversation except for crap. I hope he doesn't know anything about my business,
But really, it's about adding value. It's about helping people. It's about enthusing them. It's about skilling them, guiding them, whatever acronym you want to use. It's about helping people continue their passion and grow their business. And people do that just naturally. That was one of my mentors that just went past and gave me a bit of a tap on the shoulder sort of thing. He's a startup mentor here in France. Now, we know a little bit about startup mentoring, don't we, everybody? But we don't know much about France. So, of course, we just pull on to
we're all learning.
Experts at that sort of level. And it develops this great friendship, and you can get past this issue of, I don't think I'm very good, because when you're talking with these other people, they're going to let you know, yes, you've got something valuable to add. You're helping me. And it's evidence.
Well,
it's very clear.
Actually, there was something really interesting in there, Mark. Just again, I'm just kind of picking out little snippets here. But you said, we know a lot about startups. We don't know a lot about France, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're learning fast. I mean, you got cheese vending machines and lots of wine. You know?
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And but that plays into another thing in mentoring, right? It's not just a case of I just need a mentor, right?
No.
So I even think about the mentors I've had in my personal journey. I had a mentor, when I first got married, I had a mentor who was really good at just getting alongside young men who were freshly married and working with them. I had a spiritual mentor, I had a business mentor, I had a financial mentor, people that just took on different areas. Now today I've got mountain bike mentors,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that stretch me the most right now. But it's not just I need a mentor to get better. It's actually knowing that thing that you want to get after. Mei King wanted to grow her business. And then, sometimes it might be a mentor who just picks on something and then you go, oh yeah, I really need that. And
just asking the question.
Right. But
Yeah.
Coming back to that mindset thing though, Linda, because the imposter syndrome also comes out of another area where we do have, we carry a lot of kind of pride and ego and all those sorts of things. I mean, ego is one of those things. It's so important in terms of just the energy to get out of bed in the morning. You need ego, right? I mean, the whole thing about people who are chronically depressed is they just don't feel like doing anything because their ego is just completely shattered. So ego, even though it can end up as a egotistical, egomaniac kind of space, there is this element of the energy it drives in terms of getting us to move forward, to do things, and to invite other people into our journey, which means I think there's, the ego and the pride thing is probably one of the bigger toxicities when it comes to resistance to mentoring, because it's kind of like, Linda, you mentioned, it's like, oh, I've got this, I know what to do. I can figure this out. Now, the reality is you probably could, right? Yeah, there's probably an element of you could, and you'll figure it out, or you might just get to points like, I can't do this anymore. I need someone else. But which sadly is when it's sometimes getting too late.
Yeah.
But
I think in a journey, when you're on a journey and you're a solopreneur, you think you've got all of the things sorted out. Like you think you've got most of the areas sorted out, but you're unconsciously focused on the things that you're really good at. And a mentor can come in and say, and how's the foundation of that going?
How's that working for you?
And sort of allow you to recognize that foundation probably needs a bit more strengthening, like it needs to be bolstered a little bit harder to keep it all going. And as we all know, being entrepreneurs, it can be something that you just don't even see yourself because you're in it so much.
No, that's a beautiful analogy. We all get into our businesses, into our space, and often that's why we're hired, right, as coaches and strategists, because we sit outside and we can see, like, you can see all the warts for what they are, rather than, I can't see them, so they mustn't be there, And so, yeah, it's really interesting. So what I want to do is I want to shift to just the benefits of being a mentee. Okay. And I've actually got a really interesting little list here. So what are the benefits to mentees? And like, obviously selfishly, this plays into the fact that obviously we want more people getting active in the SandTracks club and on the Facebook group page. And so what do you think are some of the benefits, making, of being a mentee?
Well, you scale your business quicker, without a doubt. That's it. And
boom, the money shot.
That's it. I mean, and you're absolutely right, Jono, when you talked about, we need to let go of our ego. We need to, Linda mentioned, as entrepreneurs, we think we can do everything, but are we the best at everything in our business? No, absolutely not. And we want to do, the things that we enjoy, as Linda said, because that will, that will make our entrepreneurial journey a lot more enjoyable. So if we outsource the stuff that we're not good at or that we don't enjoy, it will help us to scale. As I said, I faffed around in my business for like 6 years, and in the last 4 years, my business has grown so much than in the previous 6. And so being a mentee is hard. especially as we're entrepreneurs, we want, we think we've got the solutions to, our challenges in our business. But if we just suspend our thoughts and truly listen to our mentors, truly listen and, and listen to what it is they say, and then, think about what they say, because our mentors are the experienced ones. They're the ones that we can learn from. So suspend judgment, suspend our ego, put that aside and genuinely listen, and that will really help you to grow as a person and grow our business as well.
Beautiful group there. Suspend judgment and be willing to really actively listen. Two of the hardest things I think human beings know how to, or maybe don't know how to do. But it's funny because I mean, one of the things I've learned in my coaching journey, it's a conscious decision to start with. It's like going to the gym, right? If I don't go to the gym, I'm not going to get stronger, or if I don't ride my bike or whatever. But if I intentionally do it, I'm going to get stronger and develop muscles in certain areas and strengthen up, right? And so, so it is actually, it's almost so one of the things about being a mentee is you are putting yourself a little bit in harm's way, but in a sense that grows you. What do you think are some of the benefits of being a mentee, Mark? Not a mentor, a mentee.
Yeah. Mike King just talked about it. It's this communication piece.
Right.
You fit in better when you know the language. And I'll talk about the French language. In my case, it's French administration. Which is it's a nightmare for a Western.
Like an oxymoron.
Oh, it is. It is for an English-based system to come to France. You're scratching your head. There is no logic there.
Yeah.
And there's words that are completely different meanings, even if you do understand what they translate to. So we need to fit into this system to be able to leverage it. We need to understand the language that people are using. When they say this, what do they really mean, and how they go about it. So I guess, there's so much learning about how to deal with things that I don't know. Not that I can't learn it, but I don't know the answers to easily. And as a mentee, I pick that up. For us, it's French administration, European laws, things like that. Talking to a client this morning, it was how do you run a tech project? How do you run a tech team? She's not a tech founder, and she's having all sorts of trouble communicating with her tech team. It's a language issue. So you fit in easier. You know the style. You know what to wear. You know how to present yourself to be able to communicate easier with your market and your teams.
Fantastic. Yeah. So what about you, Linda? What do you think are the benefits of being a mentee?
Well, I just want to touch on what Mark was just saying about communication and language, because it was interesting when we spoke to Dom Holland, and he was talking about how from FAST, and he was talking about in our Fireside chat, and he was saying he's taken his whole family to the US, and I was interested to understand what his struggles were. And he said it was the language. He sort of explained that the language was not the barrier, really, which made me realise that our language, even though we don't speak French and we're in France trying to build a business, you can still know the language, like understand the communication, but the language of how to understand the culture goes even deeper, to understand the culture of what you're doing. So it's really not, for us, the language barrier is like petit.
Petit barrier.
Word I know. Culture, the understanding of the culture, and it was interesting. He was having exactly the same struggles we were having, and you too, Jono, you've had the same struggles.
Oh, heck yeah. And you probably did go into Australia too.
I did, and understanding the culture, but you also have that communication barrier, or the language barrier, when you go back to Australia and try and settle back into a country. So my point is just that the culture is probably the underlying thing that is the thing that
So that's where a mentor comes in and really helps you work through that. And
absolutely,
and those like
pull out things that are so
yeah,
obvious to them, but not obvious to you.
yeah. Well, look, when Dom was going through that, I remember you brought that up, and it's like, oh, I remember all of that.
Yeah.
And look, there are still things that are anomalies, but you know.
Oh, and May King, you've been through the same thing as well, because you came to Australia and now you're back in the UK. So I think when somebody else can explain it to you in a different way, it makes it so much easier.
Well, it's that importance of getting those people around you. So for us, we made a lot of mistakes in our first year here. But then in that first year, we also started to build good friendship networks and connections. And then when we had to make more decisions in the second year, they were there to help us. And there were people that helped us do different things, handle legal stuff, tax stuff, whatever it may have been. And so it made it a lot easier, saved us a ton of money too, because you just make mistakes without even thinking about it. And so I find that all interesting. And so for me, the benefits of being a mentee is obviously you're going to gain insights. And this is something we've all talked about. You're going to gain insights that you don't already have, right? And so it's going to come, obviously it's coming from another place. It's coming from outside of you. But it's tapping into resources you already have and igniting them in a way and allowing you then to step forward. But I think, it's one of those things. And most people who, have been mentees we've all been mentees somewhere along the line, but those areas of growing and stretching. But Linda, you brought up the communication piece, and that's the other one for me. But I see mentees also really powerful in a lot of the interpersonal communication stuff. And so how people carry themselves as leaders in their business, how people connect and network their business. Like, I've worked with people where it's like, look, can you not get in front of the customer, please? Even though they own the business, because you're just a hindrance basically, and you need to find someone, because it's just no personal skills there. I've had to tell people to go and put some deodorant on, when we're in stop scratching.
Really?
Yeah.
Wowzers.
So interpersonal, like personal communication skills. Now we think about, eye contact, body language, physiology, all those sorts of things. But it's just that how we show up. In fact, and this is in the corporate mentoring space, there is a whole kind of area called executive presence. How an individual carries themselves as an executive based on the culture they're trying to create and all that sort of thing. So, Steve Jobs dressed very differently to Warren Buffett, and so, but there's a lot of that interpersonal communication. And that's what I find the mentor can kind of call it out, because often they're sitting alongside, they've built a good relationship. It may or may not be a paid relationship.
And here at Business and Bare Feet, we insist that you have no shoes on.
but just occasionally wash your feet.
I think that probably is a nice ending to this show. Business in bare feet is what we're all about. The power of being a mentor, the power of being a mentee. Jono, do you want to tell the viewers where they can find out more about us if they wanted to talk to us as a group, individually, and so on?
Yeah, sure. So we operate at a bunch of different levels here. Okay, so first of all, we have a free SandTracks community. So SandTracks is part of the Business in Bare Feet family. SandTracks, it's a remote co-working space in the sense that it's a Facebook group that's free to join. Obviously, we encourage you to be active. There's a couple of questions you need to answer to join that. And then the next level is then the SandTracks Club, which is a paid mentoring space, and you're going to get more intimate access to our 25 plus mentors plus us, and that chat backwards and forwards. And so you're going to go a lot deeper into your business. So there are those two levels. Obviously the Business in Bare Feet Facebook page is another area, but that's usually where we do a lot of our promotion and backwards and forwardsing. So less of the intimate diving into your business. You get to look at us beautiful people on a fairly or semi-regular basis, you know, Making and I running the weekly Fireside chat. So there, a couple of the content things, we do run weekly Fireside chats. We've all got our own content and bits and pieces that we pop in there just because we love doing it. And so a lot of other things going on, plus that broader community, broader connections and so forth. You're welcome to chat with anybody in the club and in the community. So we encourage you, first step, join the Facebook group, SandTracks Facebook group, and we'll put the link on the video eventually. And then the next step then is to be active. Open yourself up to be stretched and changed and to give something back as well.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yep, fantastic. Well done, guys. Thanks for another wonderful chat.
Yeah, we haven't done this chat like this for a long time.
It's been a long time, and
so
to have 4 mentors. In fact, we're not interviewing a startup entrepreneur. It takes us back to the early days somewhat.
Well, we're all interviewing ourselves, so yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. But this was all May King's doing, and May King, thank you very much for pushing this and making sure we get that done. But so next week, do you want to just quickly talk about the guy that hopefully will get sorted for next week?
Yeah. So Tamashayan, absolutely amazing. As I say, he's my business mentor, but he's just launched a YouTube channel, so you can actually watch his journey about how he's grown into, multi-million successful businesses, how he crashed and how he's starting to build himself up again. And if you want to learn, you definitely need to go and check out CEO Entrepreneur on YouTube, but definitely come next week and listen to his journey and how mentoring has helped him both as a mentor and as a mentee.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, guys. You all go back to your wonderful fall days. Fall's almost done now. We're almost into winter. I hope you're getting some decent warm weather. It's going to be 22 here today. I'm going mountain bike riding.
Oh, well done.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, Mark, Linda, May King, wonderful as always. I'm John O'Brake, and this has been our weekly Fireside chat talking about mentoring. See you guys.
See you guys.
Awesome, guys. See you. Au revoir.